Hello and welcome back to the Academy of the Magical Art. Today we are going to be discussing the great work, or the Magnum Opus, as the term is used in Hermeticism and other certain occult traditions such as Thelema. The great work has many different definitions ranging from magician to magician, author to author, and we are going to cover a couple of them just to lay down a forefront or foundation for us to build off of. Ultimately, the great work, or the Magnum Opus, was a term used in alchemy for transmuting lead into gold. However, in spirituality, this is a term that is used for transforming the lead, or the base spirit of man, into gold, or a divine spirit, the reuniting of the soul with the divine. According to Eliphas Levi, who lived from 1810 to 1875, the great work is before all things the creation of man by himself, that is to say, the full and entire conquest of his faculties and his future. It is especially the perfect emancipation of his will. He continued to say in one of his works, and I quote, "Furthermore, there exists a force in nature which is immeasurably more powerful than steam, and by means of which a single man who knows how to adapt and direct it might upset and alter the face of the world. This force was known to the ancients, as it consists in a universal agent having equilibrium for its supreme law. While its direction is concerned immediately with the great arcanum of transcendental magic, this agent is precisely that which the adepts of the Middle Ages denominated the first matter of the great work. The Gnostics represented it as the fiery body of the Holy Spirit. It was the object of adoration in the secret rites of the Sabbath and the temple, under the hieroglyphic figure of the Baphomet of the Androgyny of Mendes. The great work is generally defined as a spiritual practice leading to the mystical union of the self and the all." And infamous author Aleister Crowley said in his book Magic Without Tears, "The great work is the uniting of opposites. It may mean uniting the soul with God, or the macrocosm with the microcosm, the feminine principle with the masculine principle, or the ego and the non-ego. With each individual's path, the great work will take many different forms and will occur through many different ways, many different processes." Mr. Crowley described his own personal great work in the introduction to his book Magic, Book 4. "In my third year at Cambridge, I devoted myself consciously to the great work, understanding thereby the work of becoming a spiritual being, free from the constraints, accidents, and deceptions of material existence. Within the system of the AA, the great work of the probationer grade is considered to be the pursuit of self-knowledge. Because obtaining knowledge of nature and powers of their own being, one is able to then ascend and reunite with their true self. Understanding that we as human beings have multiple layers to our existence. On a spiritual plane, I want you to note that we have a divine self, or our higher consciousness. We have our shadow self, which is our lower consciousness. We are taught backwards in our society that we must separate these two and run from our shadow self and appear one way and keep this other way secret, and in reality ultimately strive to be this way, when in reality the key to achieving the great work is acceptance and unition of both of these forces, allowing the shadow self to unite with the divine self to become purified in the fire, to allow both of these bodies to become one united being, thus transmuting the base lead of the spirit into gold. Transformation is a process that never ends. It should always be a conscious goal of every adept or magician or aspiring adept or magician to achieve, constantly analyzing and scrutinizing the self, trying to understand why we do the things we do, why we tick the way we tick. In the great work, or the Magnum Opus, the first material that we work with, this base spirit or lead that I am referring to, is oftentimes called the prima materia, and this is what we use to create the gold or the philosopher's stone, however you want to look at it. This has been used to describe personal and spiritual transformation and transmutation in the Hermetic tradition. Attached to many laboratory processes and chemical color changes used as models for individual processes, the Hermeticists and the alchemists oftentimes coded their work with this symbolism to actually stand for spiritual processes that we ourselves should be going through. In the days when these were common practices, one who practiced spiritual science and physical science was one and the same, and this was called natural science. Understanding the nature of all things was the goal of the scientist, or in this case, the Hermetic. It is not good to seek to just understand one thing, but all things. If you examine ancient alchemical art, you will find many references to these processes, and through understanding these processes, we are then able to understand the processes that must take place within ourselves to transform and transmute. The keys are right in front of our faces. We just simply need to open our eyes and look at them if we are to understand them. Rather than examining these processes or these terms or these sciences with carnal first glance appearance, we must dig deep and understand the underlying natures of all of these things. There has been much written about alchemy and these processes, and you can find an incredible amount of information and books or online that will assist you through this process. In alchemy, there is a phrase that says divide, 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 or dilute, dilute, dilute. Keep on taking aspects of the self and divide them, examine them, divide them again, examine them again, to understand the true nature of ourselves, our behaviors, our past, what's happened to us. Every aspect of our life must be examined in extreme detail. It's never good to do all of this at once. Too much of a good thing at once is never a good thing, or too much ascension at once can oftentimes not be a good thing. However, again, this should be an everyday, lifelong process that over time allows you to become more and more pure, more and more positive. By expelling that negativity and those negative vibrations, focusing on positivity, controlling our thoughts, controlling what we allow in and out of our mind, and analyzing what is already there and what needs to be expelled and what needs to be held on to, allows us to ascend very quickly and become more divine beings. Rather than being controlled by our behaviors or our natures, we then are able to take control of these aspects of our life, and in doing so, regain control over much more aspects of our life. Oftentimes, people allow themselves to exist merely in the reptilian brain, which is driven off of basic senses and basic carnal needs, rather than ascending into the intellectual aspects of our minds and dictating and deciding what it is we want to do. Up until June of this last year, I smoked a pack and a half of cigarettes a day until I heard a parable of the Buddha that spoke of a man who walked up to the Buddha while he was meditating under a tree. He said to the Buddha, help me, I am addicted to the poppy. The poppy has me and it will not let me go." The Buddha looked at the man in disbelief and simply raised his arm up, grabbed a branch of the tree, and said, help me, the tree has me and it will not let me go." This very simply proves that we have the choice to reach up and grab the thing. We have the choice to hang on to the thing, but we are living in the disillusion that the thing has a hold of us. This applies to many different aspects of our life, whether it be the food that we're eating, the chemicals that we are taking into our body, the televised programming or TV that we are watching, the radio that we are listening to. People oftentimes feel the need to have these things in their life because they are brainwashed and programmed to have them, to keep them in complete confinement. Those who are in the know want us to have an invisible fence of perceived control around us so that we think that we have control over nothing in our life. And we don't even realize that we're having that problem. Now they are programming our youth to operate completely out of their reptilian brain. I had a conversation with my 13-year-old just the other day and looked at him and said, "Are you aware how bad that Taco Bell that you're eating is for you?" And he simply looked at me and said, "Yeah, but it tastes good." Well, who cares if it tastes good if you're filling your body with toxins? We are not trained and programmed to recognize that which is good and that which is bad anymore. We are programmed, and our youth is programmed, to recognize what feels good and what does not feel good, and nothing past that. How many people do you know can simply sit in silence and sit with their thoughts? They have to have a TV on, they have to have a radio on, they have to have something drowning out the thoughts in their head to escape that which is going through their head because they are not at peace. Once you begin to go through this process of the Magnum Opus and purify yourself, analyze yourself, and understand yourself, the self no longer has power over you. You can sit in complete silence and be okay. You don't have to be subjecting yourself to whatever subliminal frequencies are being blasted through the radio or whatever we are being programmed to want or perceive as need via the televised programming that is being pumped into our homes. We are then able to consciously analyze whether or not this is serving a good purpose and whether or not we want it into our life, and eliminate it if it does not very, very quickly. Those who are in the know do not want us to have this information, because in doing that, we are taking control away from them and regaining control over our lives. This process is a process that will take our entire lives. It's something that we'll be strive for every single day, because there's, up until the time that we exit our carnal bodies, we will not receive complete and divine union with the creative force that brought us here, that we are extensions of. We are still confined in and inhabiting a carnal physical body. We can simply raise our consciousness and raise our spirits to a divine level while we inhabit this shell, and prepare ourselves for the next step when we are released from this shell and we do reunite, so that at that time we are prepared for the next step of our existence. Again, I cannot encourage enough the importance of constantly analyzing yourself and constantly creating filters in your life to either accept or reject thoughts that are coming in and out of your head, thought patterns that you are holding on to, energies that you are allowing into your life via TV, radio, people that we associate with. Somebody very wise once told me, "Show me your friends and I'll show you your future." The energies that you subject yourselves to and the energies that you put yourself around begin to resonate with you, and you begin to pick that up yourself, and it affects the energy and the physicality of your body. It takes a toll. If you want to vibrate high and you want to vibrate in a positive level, surround yourself with positive people. If you wish to be a negative person, surround yourself with negative people. I was discussing with one of my friends yesterday that as soon as I stopped watching violent and angry televised programming or angry and violent movies and stopped listening to angry and violent music, I stopped being angry and violent person. Granted, I was never really that violent of a person. However, I did hold on to a lot of anger, and I was desensitized to that anger through the programming I was subjecting myself to. It was normal because I was filling my mind with it hours and hours and hours every single day. We are being programmed, and our children are being programmed to be sensitized to certain vibrations that keep us vibrating on a low level that make us easy to control. When you are an angry person, you become very polarized, and it's very easy to push you from one pole to the other. When you become depolarized, you regain control of your life. These are all things to take serious note of, and I really would like to encourage you to research these topics further, form your own opinions, form your own conclusions. If you have any questions or feedback, please send them in to me, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. I want to thank you for joining with me today at the Academy of the Magical Art, and until next time, blessed be.